Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cohen back here again tonight with another episode of After the Buzzer, the show where I recap the NBA games from the night. I want to apologize, these videos haven't been as consistent the last few days. I haven't been feeling quite well. However, I am back to talk about some hoops, and there are a lot of things to cover. In particular, some MVP candidates went absolutely off tonight, and one superstar player in particular I feel like deserves more respect. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos, and let's go ahead and get right into it. As you can probably tell, the superstar player that I want to talk about to start off this video is Jayson Tatum. He's been incredible this season. In my opinion, he's top 3 in the MVP race, right there in the thick of it, alongside Luka Doncic and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Those are my top 3 at the moment, and Jayson Tatum just continues to make statement games towards his case. In this one against Detroit, the second game that Boston and Detroit have played in the last few days, getting another W. Tatum had 43 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 assists on 50% shooting, and 7 of 15 from 3. In a game without Jaylen Brown or Al Horford, he was able to step up big time and contribute as much as his team needed to secure the win, and that's kind of been the story of the season. Every single time the Celtics go out and play, you're probably going to see Tatum drop an efficient 30, maybe even 40 points, grab boards, dish out dimes, play elite level defense. Jayson Tatum does basically everything on the court. There really are very few holes in his game, if any. He's one of the most complete players in the NBA at the moment. And like I said, he's in the thick of it for the MVP race, putting up ridiculous numbers, 31.4 points per game, 7 rebounds, 4.2 assists on almost 50, 40, 90 splits. He's doing it efficiently, playing great defense, putting up 30 points per game. And the Celtics are right there behind the Milwaukee Bucks for the second seed in the Eastern Conference. They're trying to fight for that 1 seed. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes all the way down to the end of the season between these two teams that very much feel like the best squads in the East right now. You've got other teams like Cleveland that are there too. The Hawks have been pretty good. I still think the Sixers are going to turn things around. We'll talk about them later in this video, but the Celtics are right back in the thick of it after making the NBA Finals last year, and it's because of a multitude of guys. Of course, Marcus Smart continues to play great defense, and he's been really solid offensively too. Jaylen Brown is having pretty much a career year at this point. You've got Al Horford, who's still solid. They haven't even had Robert Williams yet this season, but most of it comes back to Jayson Tatum, who is a bona fide top 10, probably even higher player in this league. But despite that, I feel like he continues to get disrespected kind of an absurd amount for a player that, in my opinion, is on the path to being considered one of the all-time greats in this league by the time everything is said and done. Now, I've said it on this channel multiple times. If you've been here for a while, you'll know that for a bit, I was a bit of a Jayson Tatum doubter. I wasn't a huge believer in him. I thought he was going to cap out as an all-star caliber player and maybe nothing more. Then, very obviously, he proved me wrong, becoming an all-NBA guy, the best player in a championship caliber team. He's become a high-level defender. He, like I said, is one of the most complete players in the sport at this point. Tatum is a bona fide superstar at this point that just keeps getting better. It feels like last year he took a lot of lessons from that finals loss and is now applying them to his game in the present. He has just continued to fix some of those holes. And the main thing has been his consistency for a while. That's probably been his biggest flaw, because a lot of seasons he'll start really kind of mid. And we saw that last year where it felt like every game it was like 9 of 21 shooting, a few turnovers, and the Celtics would have a loss. And that's when they started really, really rough and had to make that huge turnaround. But now, from the get-go, he's putting up ridiculous numbers, like absurd statistics that I feel like we've kind of become normalized to in the modern NBA. This stuff is not normal from a 24-year-old player. What Tatum is doing, you don't typically see in NBA history. He's already playing like one of the best players in Celtics franchise history, which you might think I'm crazy in saying, but if you take a look at his track record, ever since Tatum got to Boston, the Celtics have been wildly successful, and he's only been in the league for like 5-6 years. Right now, Jayson Tatum is 24 years old, and he's been the best player on 2 conference finals teams, an NBA finals team. He won a conference finals MVP. He's been all-NBA twice and all-star 3 times. He's one of the top scorers in the league since he came into it. Like I said, he's developed into an elite player on both sides of the ball, and I truly believe one day he's going to have an MVP and a finals MVP under his belt, and it might even be this season. If he's able to accomplish that, he's very quickly starting to make himself a case for one of the top 75 players in league history, which once again, you might think sounds crazy, but what he's doing at such a young age is not normal. In his rookie season, he dunked on LeBron James, 2018 LeBron, by the way, which a lot of people consider as one of his best seasons ever. He dunked on him and almost led that Celtics team that wasn't supposed to be there to their first finals appearance since like 2009. That's not normal rookie level stuff. Despite all this though, the amount of Tatum disrespect that I see is crazy. He just made a finals at 24, and sure, he wasn't great, but he got completely clowned for a lot of those games. Then there are moments like when he's mentioned in the MVP race this season and people are like, oh, he shouldn't be included in that. You know, where's this guy over Jayson Tatum? He's putting up ridiculous numbers. If you asked me right now to rank my top like 10 players in the league, Tatum is firmly in that top 10, and I would argue he's probably around like 7 or 8, maybe even 6 you could make an argument for. That's how good he's been this season and how much I've started to believe in Jayson Tatum. In my opinion, he's one of the most disrespected superstars in the league and belongs in a lot more of those high-level conversations. He belongs in the conversations with the best players in the world, and the way he continues to get better, maybe even one day he'll have an argument for being the best player in the world. That's how good he is. He's an elite two-way player. He's a leader. He's proven that he can be the best player on a championship caliber team, and I think that's something that a lot of people just don't account for when they talk about Jayson Tatum. Sure, they lost the finals, but the fact that they got there and pushed the Golden State Warriors, who are a dynasty, they brought them to 6 games in their first appearance, and I think the Celtics will be back in this time frame that they have Jayson Tatum. It just speaks to how good he is already. A lot of players never make a finals. Tatum leading one to the finals at 24 years old is very, very rare, and I feel like he deserves a lot more respect. Meanwhile, for the Detroit Pistons on the other side of this game, Jaden Ivey had a good game with 26 points on 8 of 15 shooting and 4 of 6 from 3. Good performance in the absence of Cade Cunningham. Bojan Bogdanovic continues to put up buckets for the Pistons. He had 28 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists. All around, a decent effort for them, lacking Cade Cunningham, but still an L. In other MVP candidate news, Luka Doncic, who's also firmly in that conversation, had a 42-point triple-double against the Portland Trailblazers. He had 42 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists on 13 of 22 shooting. He's a walking triple-double. He's historically great at this age of just 23 years old. However, I do feel like he needs some help. His usage rate is completely absurd, and that has led to some of his great numbers. And, you know, Luka is capable of putting up like a 40-point, 50-point triple-double probably any given night if he just took a bunch of shots. But I'm kind of getting worried about the load he's had to carry. He looks gassed out there. He looks so tired towards the end of games. You'll see Luka start off really, really hot. He'll put up a ton of points in the first quarter, but slowly his numbers dip if you check the stats as time goes on. And you know, he's a great clutch player too. He's got a ton of game winners, but you can't have him carrying this load already through the regular season if you want him to be doing what he's doing now in the playoffs. I still feel like they need to get him some more help, another contributor. You know, Spencer Dinwiddie's been solid. He just had a great game against the Wizards the other day. And in this one, Christian Wood, who's been pretty good on the season, had a solid game with 19 and 5 before eventually fouling out. But if you look at Luke out there, he is completely gassed. I still feel like he needs more help for them to become the best version of this team. For the Blazers, Jeremy Grant had 37 points. He was phenomenal. Once again, going back to the Portland video that I just made, if you want to go check that one out. Damian Lillard had 29 points and 12 dimes. Anthony Simons had 24 points. An all-around team effort from them, just not enough to overcome Luka, who is basically unstoppable. Once again, talking about an MVP candidate in Sixers versus Hawks, Joel Embiid had the best game of his season so far, really looking like himself. He had 42 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists, completely dominating, hitting like turnaround mid-ranges, just pulling up, attacking players in the post, crazy finishes running to the rim that don't feel possible for a guy at his size and his weight. He's just truly one of a kind when you watch him out there in the court, and it's so fun to see him kind of getting back to his game. Hopefully now that he's over that sickness and kind of that weird start to the season, he's played himself into shape a bit. He looks a lot more like the Embiid of old, and I still believe he's got a potential MVP run in him. This game was almost a disaster for the Sixers though, as they went up by I believe as much as 27 points, and the Hawks managed to cut it down all the way to like 6, I think. It was scary. It was very reminiscent of their playoff series from a couple years ago, but this time the Sixers held on, largely in part, of course, like I mentioned, to Joel Embiid, but also got great performances from Tyrese Maxey, who had 26 points, and 21 and 6 from Tobias Harris, who's trying to step up in the absence of James Harden. They're going to need more games like this to hold on without their point guard. For the Hawks, 20 23, 8, and 7 came from DeJounte Murray. Trae Young had 27 and 11 dimes. They were both really solid. Clint Capella had another really solid game against Philly. They really need John Collins to be better. He is the guy that if I'm the Hawks, I'm looking at as a potential trade candidate heading into the trade deadline in a couple months. He's got a contract that they could use to match a high-level player. They throw in a pick or maybe a young player, and who knows? If there is a star-level guy out there in the market, if you give them a guy in John Collins who hasn't been good this season, but has shown a lot of potential to be maybe a borderline all-star guy, you give up one of your young assets and they've still got several picks despite trading 3 for DeJounte Murray, then who knows? Maybe you can get in some of those conversations to bring in a third guy next to Trae and DeJounte. Regardless though, if he's not going to get traded, he's got to figure things out because he's supposed to be their third option and he's been really mediocre this year. Final game I want to go in depth about is Nets versus Clippers. Kevin Durant leads this team to another win. They're now 4-1, I believe, without Kyrie Irving. He had 27, 6, and 3. Seth Curry had 22 points, a double-double from Nick Claxton. Their defense in particular has been locked down since Kyrie got suspended from the team. Guys are just putting in a lot of effort. I like what I've seen from Jacques Vaughn as their head coach. I tweeted this out earlier today, but when the Nets were looking for a head coach and Jacques Vaughn had just done a pretty good job as their interim before, Steve Nash came in, I was surprised that they didn't give him an opportunity. It's super cool to see him finally getting that chance now a few years later, and he's taking advantage. The Nets have looked really good under him. Like I said, they're giving up less than 100 points per game on average under Jacques Vaughn so far. He's done a great job of getting them to buy in defensively, and when Kyrie comes back, we'll see if that continues because the trend has happened without Kyrie Irving, so we're going to have to see if he buys in on that end. But the Nets now are slowly climbing their way back up the standings and are looking a bit more like the team we thought they could possibly be. Ben Simmons continues to struggle. He just can't score. He's fouling a lot. His defense isn't there. The aggression's not there. I don't know if we're ever going to see the version of Ben Simmons that we saw in Philly again at this rate, or at least not this season. Maybe it takes him another year to kind of get his mental back and get back from that back surgery fully, but it looks like a huge disaster of a trade right now for Brooklyn. For the Clippers, Zubats had 16 and 13, and Paul George had 17, 4 and 4, albeit on 5 of 21 shooting. Huge credit to the Nets defense for the way they locked him down. He's been completely on fire recently, and they made him look like he was a scrub. Some other shoutouts I want to give: Jalen Green dropped 33 points in a loss to the Pelicans, while Zion had 26, 4 and 6 on the other side. LaMelo Ball returned to the Charlotte Hornets lineup tonight. Super cool to see him back out there. He had 15, 6 and 6. Albeit once again in an L to the Miami Heat. They were led by Max Strus, who dropped 31 points. Bam Adebayo had 24, 15 and 4. Jimmy Butler had 27 and 8. Just a ridiculous beating. Everybody was scoring for the Heat, and they've continued to look better and better as well. The Washington Wizards beat the basically unbeatable Utah Jazz, led by Kristaps Porzingis with 31 and 10. He's been having a really solid year so far, and same for Kyle Kuzma, who had 23, 8 and 6. I gave him a lot of praise in my last video, and it's just cool to see these guys kind of find a home and start to produce on this Washington team. They didn't have Bradley Beal tonight, which makes the win even more impressive. For the Jazz, they had 5 guys in double digits, but nobody was really able to kind of break out and be the leader for them offensively, which is a worry for this team and part of why I think they might come back down to earth. Lowry's been great, but we have to see if other guys continue to step up. Finally, the Indiana Pacers got a win over the Raptors, led by Tyrese Haliburton, who had 8.6 rebounds and 15 assists, one of the best playmakers in the association. Miles Turner had a 19 and 10 triple-double. Buddy Hield dropped 22, and the Raptors have now dropped 2 games in a row that they probably feel like they should have won, given they had no Pascal Siakam in either one, but they lost in very convincing fashion to OKC, where we were up by almost 30, and now the Indiana Pacers, who beat them by double digits. 2 teams that I'm sure they feel like they're better than, but right now they just look kind of inconsistent. And that's all I have to say about the games tonight. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss on any more videos, and comment down below your biggest takeaway from tonight's games, and let me know what you think about Jayson Tatum. Do you agree that he gets way too much disrespect? Do you not believe in him like I used to not? And if you don't, then you'll become a believer eventually, just like I did. For right now, I appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.